Hey guys, welcome back to As a Man Thinketh on Yanasa TV. Today I want to talk about the state of Maryland. Maryland farmers are at risk of losing millions of dollars due to eminent domain.
According to the map that we've been shown, the 500-foot right-of-way is going to cut across the corner of the building here, and it's going to run straight across this field, which is our probably highest producing field. Yeah. And then it's going to cross the fence row and go straight that way. And again, it's our second probably highest producing field.
What they basically want to do is come from over the hill there and come straight across everything, come across the cropland, across the wetlands, and up in here to our pastures to basically cross us. You couldn't pick a wider swath through our farm. Your property value is going to go down as well. So, you know, we just paid good money for the farm, and now, as I say, less than a year in, your property value gets decreased just like that, and you have no say in it. Yeah, that's a big thing.
This originally belonged to my great-grandparents. I am the fourth generation. The fifth and sixth generation are here. Some of them live next door. And it's home. So it's part of who we are and holds the hope for the future. This will destroy everything we've worked for generations.
These are cases that have been popping up, and a lot of times, you know, when people think about these stories that I put out there, they think about farms out west, they think about farms in the Midwest. They don't think a lot about the East Coast, and a lot of the East Coast voters don't probably think about the East Coast farms. For some reason, a lot of times they think that they're protected from having these things happen to them, but it's happening in real time. And what the Maryland farmers are facing, this is a 500-volt transmission line running 70 miles across the state. They are facing the same issues that farmers in Kansas are facing, farmers in Missouri are facing, farmers in Michigan are facing, farmers in, you know, some of the Dakotas, Nevada, all across the United States. We're seeing these massive transmission lines coming in.
With an eye towards the future, a 70-mile transmission line capable of carrying 500,000 volts will run through Baltimore, Carroll, and Frederick counties to boost the power grid. Once a final route is selected, the developer will then have to negotiate with individual landowners on the value of using their property. And if they can't agree, they could then use the power of eminent domain to use it anyway.
What's happening in Maryland is these power line companies are coming in. If people aren't willing to have the power lines run across their property, they're filing for eminent domain. Basically what we're seeing is this massive power up of America. This is the big green energy movement that everybody's been talking about. But as I've pointed out several times on this channel before, this is not just a green energy transmission. And in the case of Maryland and many other places across the US, you'll start hearing a lot of these executives kind of back up a little bit on the whole green energy thing and say, well, we're going to need some other energy resources as well, because what this is really about is increasing the amount of energy. Why are we increasing the amount of energy? Because big tech needs the energy to spy on you, not just the big tech, but big government. Big brother needs to be able to spy on you. So we want to put in these data centers across the United States, and that requires a significant amount of high voltage power transmission lines to be installed. A lot of these transmission lines could be 5 to 10 to 200 miles wide and hundreds of miles long. In the state of Maryland's case, I think it's about a 15-mile wide transmission line that is running 70 miles long.
As we move towards more clean energy, and the goal of the state is to advance more clean energy, we have a lot of uncertainty about what farmland will be used for.
State officials say to achieve their goals, in part, new transmission infrastructure must be built, or else Maryland's electric grid could be put at risk.
So why do they need these power lines in Maryland? Well, it's for a couple reasons. Number one, to connect mega regions. I've talked about those on this channel as well. The mega regions are the areas where they would like to put people. The other reason is they're going to be putting in more data centers in Frederick, and actually the state of Virginia, just below Maryland, has been dubbed the spy state because of how many data centers are going into the state of Virginia. So in order to make this infrastructure work, in order to be able to create the technology that is needed to understand everything about your lives, we have to take farmland across this country and install these massive 500-volt power line systems.
So you work underneath them certain days, it will It will shock you when you touch something metal under.
While, again, impacts are relative, the wires will literally be over people's homes. They would not be able to live there.
The entire power grid of the United States is being upgraded to be able to accommodate all of this technology. But the amount of energy that is needed for this type of technology is 400 to 500 times greater than anything that we've experienced before. I have always said on this channel, and I mean it, guys, all energy comes at a price. There's nothing that is renewable. There's nothing that creates energy that is going to be safe for the environment. And in fact, they will never do away with fossil fuels because they need those fossil fuels to build solar panels, to be able to build wind turbines. All of those are made by byproducts of the fossil fuel industry. And this is ludicrous that people actually believe this stuff, but they do. The real reason why we need so much power and electricity is to feed the fourth industrial revolution, which includes these massive data power centers. And I've gone on this tangent numerous times on this channel. The point of this video is to let you know what's going on in the state of Maryland. Good news in the state of Maryland, if you're smart enough to vote for these people and you're smart enough to contact your legislator. Baltimore County Delegate Nino Mangione is preparing to propose legislation that would give dozens of small farms and their landowners along the 70-mile stretch of the proposed transmission line a fighting chance against PSEG, which is Public Service Enterprise Group. Public Service Enterprise Group is in charge of the Maryland Piedmont Reliability Project. And the Piedmont is one of the large mega regions planned in America 2050. According to the bill, the legislation will combat the threats of PSEG to utilize eminent domain to destroy rural Maryland. Mangione plans to propose the Project Maryland Farm Act, which requires a 350% premium to be added to the highest appraisal of land to compensate small farms for their loss of income, gainful employment, and disruption of their lifestyles. And it's not just, they're not just taking people's lifestyles. They're taking people's history, people's family history. I mean, there are a lot of these farms, even on the East Coast, have been in families for generations. And to think that we're just going to come in and we're going to take all that away because we want these massive data centers to go in is absolutely ludicrous. The people who are benefiting from these big power lines are not you and I. Like, we don't benefit by being spied on. That's crazy business. It's not to power our homes. What's being done is being done to enable more surveillance from the United States government and more surveillance from big tech. Big tech needs to know everything about you so they know how to sell things on you. These projects do not benefit the public. I don't think they should be using eminent domain at all for these power line projects, but they are. And if they are going to, this bill would require them to pay you up to 350% of the highest appraised value in your eminent domain dispute. That could be beneficial to farmers. I mean, if at the end of the day, somebody came by and said, hey, we have to run this power line through your property so we can spy on everybody, but we're going to pay you 350% of your land value, I'd probably say, okay, fine, I'll take it and move on and start again somewhere else, because now I just got 350% of my farm value. The bad part about this bill that I foresee is that you're going to artificially raise property rates in those areas. You're going to artificially raise the farmland prices in those areas, unless there's something that says, on record, okay, we're going to record this at the appraised value as a sale, but then you're getting, that extra 250% of the property value in a separate type of payment. Because I don't see how else you could do this without manipulating the market. But I think it's a good idea. It's a good start. We've seen this proposed in Pennsylvania, where Pennsylvania has been trying to take farmland by eminent domain to build a highway going out to one of the colleges. And a lot of the legislators have said, well, look, if we're going to do this, we're going to force this upon these people. We're going to take Amish land. We're going to take land that's been in families for generations. We need to compensate them based on the fact of what it's actually worth. It's not just a piece of land to these people. It is land that they have cultivated, land that they have built up over years, because it does take years to develop land. I'm working right now, it doesn't look like it yet, but I've been working on trying to restore our pastures. I want to have native grasses. By the time I am done with that process, there will be years of hard labor and effort put into my land, there will be years of renovations that I put in there. You can't put a monetary value on that. So at least this 350% rule would help do that. So according to this article, Delegate Michelle Guyton, Guyton, I think that's how it's spelled, Guyton, she also supports she opposes using eminent domain at all for the transmission line project. I agree with her. And she has, in the past, submitted legislation to the bill to the General Assembly of Maryland as well. But, what I think this new bill is doing is saying, okay, well, you can use it, but you got to pay 350% of the value, whereas her bill was saying, no, you can't use it. At least one is offering the other side a foot forward. So I'm hoping that it will actually have a little bit of traction here. According to Christopher Tomlinson, who represents Carroll and Frederick counties, he says we'll just be covered in power lines unless we decide to pull our heads out of the sand. I wonder if he actually used the word sand, and drastically change how we manage everything energy in the state. It's interesting, the state of Maryland has moved towards this green energy. They've invested a ton of money into green energy. And if you live in Maryland, you know what I'm talking about here. Your power bill has gone through the roof, and it's gone through the roof because of energy shortages. These energy shortages have actually been caused by this transition to green energy, by moving everything over to green energy. In a note to Goldman Sachs, to their institutional clients in early August, so just last month, they left an investor note on covering how failed power capacity auctions in the state will lead to much higher power bills for the residents. They said after a series of auction delays and relatively low clears, PJM capacity prices appear to have finally caught up with the generative AI data center load growth story that has been central to parts of PJM. Goldman also warned that increased power capacity would be needed for grid stability. However, any new capacity could take years to come online, which essentially means that, as the analysis pointed out, higher prices are here to stay. So what Goldman is saying is that people in Maryland are facing higher power prices, and that they're going to be there for a while because of, number one, this green energy movement, and number two, this informational artificial intelligence age where these data centers are coming in and literally sucking the power out of everything. Interesting. The direct consequence of activist progressive lawmakers running the state is eminent domain risk to small farms and high power bills. It's amazing how this stuff works out. Here's an example. Laura House with Gaver Farms. They've been working on their farm now for 40 years, and these transmission lines would run right through them. Gaver Farm is a really popular agritourism farm to visit. It's a large family farm. It's been in the family for generations. And according to the Gavers, it's not just going to hurt their business. It's going to hurt those who they employ. It's going to completely change everything that they've built. It's going to completely change everything for all of their employees. Anyway, guys, stay tuned for more updates on things that are going on that are impacting farmers around our country. And until next time, stay safe. Be sure to check us out on Yanasa Trading Co.